Senator Lindsey Williams, welcome to our program. You were introducing legislation to re-ban rodeos in the city of Pittsburgh. Why were they banned initially?
So it's my understanding that about 30 years ago there was a rodeo in the city of Pittsburgh, and there was an animal death, and there were constituent complaints about how that was handled, and so the municipality took it upon themselves to pass an ordinance that regulated certain devices that manage animals within a rodeo. So that was effectively banning rodeos in the city of Pittsburgh. That was prior to my time, but that's my understanding of how that happened in the 90s, about 30 years ago.
This ban was recently lifted. Do you know what happened? What caused that?
So it is my understanding that there were some corporate entities that wanted to see a rodeo happen in the city of Pittsburgh. And rather than going through the local control and going to the city and saying, hey, our processes have changed. You may not know that this is how we do it now, et cetera, making the case that the city of Pittsburgh should change or lift their ban. They hired a lobbyist and went to Harrisburg and got some language slid into the fiscal code at the last minute that makes it so that across the Commonwealth for 12 days you have to have the ability to have a rodeo. So while it directly affects Pittsburgh because they already had a ban in place, that is any municipality who might want to regulate these entities is now that power is taken away at the state level. And in my opinion, the local control there and expertise should govern with, with things like this and others. The fiscal code is something that happens every year alongside the budget. So for people who don't know, there's a general appropriation that spends the money of the budget, and then there are a couple different code bills that run along with it that say how to spend those dollars. Fiscal code is one of them. I have learned over my last couple years, I've been in about 6 years, that that is where they tend to stick things that they can't get otherwise, and where I've seen where I had maybe a couple hours notice that this was in here. There was no time for constituents to engage, to call their senators, to say, "Hey, I don't want to see this happening." It was something that was done, in a dark room, and I don't think that it should be that way. I think most people don't want to see that kind of policy being made, and this isn't the first time. It isn't the last time. We saw it happen a couple of years ago with a preemption to plastic bag bans, where they said that local municipalities couldn't ban plastic bags. That has since expired, but those are the kinds of things that get snuck into code bills without meaningful oversight or accountability for even who did it.
Why are you supporting a bill to re-ban the rodeos?
So it's both a combination of wanting to protect animal welfare, but it's also that uh, these things should be left to local control, and that we shouldn't continue to govern like this. It's not a good way to govern. And I think people are really fed up with that. That is one of the things that they see as being broken in Harrisburg is that this is that if you have the right money and that you know the right people, you can get something done for your own financial advantage and disregard the will of the people of Pittsburgh who voted for that ordinance.
Where is this bill in the legislative process now?
So I have introduced the language. It's called Senate Bill 412. And so it is introduced, and our session is ending, and probably you may be watching this after session is end. So I will reintroduce it next session, and we'll have to start the process of being referred to committee and making its way through the legislative process.
Do you believe this will start a conversation on banning rodeos across the whole state?
That is my hope. The people in power who decided to slip this in without notice into the fiscal code are still in power when we come back to Harrisburg in January. So I don't have a lot of hope that we'll have a different result, but we have to start somewhere, and we have to stand up for this type of governing. And so I see that as an indication and a reason why I want to continue making a point that this is not how it should be done by preempting our local control.
What have your colleagues in the Senate said about this bill?
So I've got a number of co-sponsors that have jumped on, and I'm hoping to get more next session. It's hard at the end of the session to get attention. I'm hoping that we could build some coalition. And I know like Humane Action Pittsburgh and other animal rights groups around the state are paying attention to this. And I encourage you, if you care about it, to call your state rep or your state senator and ask them to be supportive of the bill.
Senator Lindsey Williams, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.